Booga. Booga. I feel like I'm in Star Wars.
We remove this particular parking pin, and really we don't see any extra oil consumption or smoking at startup beyond
hang on a second.
The pistons have from the factory, even that have the parking pin.
Preach,
so
Jake.
Bring that to your attention as we move forward and talk more about the pistons.
All right. Hey, welcome back to Yogi's Garage. I'm Yogi. We are back with Project Pepper, my 2002 Porsche 911 Carrera Cabriolet. If this is your first time visiting, welcome. You're in for a treat. We are in the middle of an engine assembly where I took this engine and I had it bored out to a 4-liter thanks to Ellen Engineering. And now I'm in the process of reassembling everything back together so I can slap it back into that car and get to finally enjoy it. I think since I've owned that Porsche, and it's been about a year and a half now, I've put on maybe 150 miles, maybe if I'm lucky. So pretty sad. People ask me, why did I tear the engine down? I'm like, you saw my logo, right? Let's fix it, right? This car had 102,000 miles on it. It needed a refresh, and I took it one step further because, you know, like I always say, while you're in there. I wanted to talk about a little bit about last week's video and some controversy that was drummed up because of the title of the episode. It didn't really describe what I was doing. So there's a couple of things about that. First, the title was automatically generated through a paid service that I go through. They help me generate catchy titles to help draw in attention, and you know what? It worked. But I'm gonna work on tweaking that to make it more relevant. The other point is, in case you haven't noticed, I've been switching my format up a little bit to more of a vlog style and less step-by-step how-to. And there's a couple of reasons. The first reason is I don't think I'm really all that qualified to give you a step-by-step, this is how it's supposed to be done, Bible type of preaching. I'm more of, hey, this is how I'm doing it. These are the lessons that I've learned, and I want to share it with you. So with that going forward, I want to show you what's going on in my world, how working on cars isn't a priority, and sometimes I have people coming in asking me to help them work on something car related, and then I have to put everything on pause and work on that. So that's my life. That's Yogi's Garage. Yogi Mama's on the camera. Say hi, Yogi Mama.
Hi, Yogi Mama.
Perfect. See, she's right on cue. All right, so what's in store for this video? Well, like the title said, it's the continuation of the engine assembly. And if you remember, I am leveraging this Bible right here, the M96 Engine Assembly Guide that was developed by Jake Raby at a Flat 6 Innovations. I got it through Ellen Engineering, and I have the videos. You saw me watching it. I'm not playing any games. For my loyal subscribers, you know that I hot tanked this engine crankcase back about a year ago almost, and it's taken this long to get it all back from Ellen Engineering and start the assembly process. But hey, there's a silver lining here. I got to have it bored out. I've got forged components. It's gonna be a sweet, sweet engine. So stick around. Let's get started. We got a lot to do. Let's fix it.
Yogi.
Yogi Mama. Hey.
Hey. I realized after watching your last video, you forgot to include something pretty important.
Did I forget the engine again?
Well, not exactly.
What did I forget? Is it bad or good?
You forgot to mention our 1,000 subs.
No S. I did, didn't I? Dang it. Well, congratulations to us. We hit 1,000 subscribers, but we couldn't have done it without you guys. So really appreciate it. Keep subscribing if you haven't. Create more accounts and subscribe those accounts too, because the higher I get up on the subscriber count, the more of the dreams in here can be parked in this garage and I can start fixing them. So thank you again. As you can see, I'm right in the middle of cleaning a IMS chain. I gotta get ready for the next wave of assembly. So back to work. All right, it's time to get busy. We're gonna start with putting the bank 2 connecting rods onto the crankcase carrier. You can see that I have the bolts all ready to go. They came pre-lubed, but I intend on lubing those again. Bearings have all been cleaned up, and again, like I mentioned before, it's important that you use a carb and choke cleaner and not a brake cleaner. All right, next up is the IMS shaft. I have the hardware ready to go as well as the circlip and the washer. I'll also be installing the chain guide as well as a paddle tensioner for the back of the IMS. Okay, so I am following the K1 instruction guide on how to torque the connecting rods. So these connecting rods, like I said, are not OEM. They're provided by K1, as is the pistons are provided by JE Pistons. So each one of those has different instructions that are different from the Porsche instructions. So in this case, these bolts needed to be lubed, and you saw that in the time lapse. You have to lube it underneath the lip of the bolt. Get them in there, and then you torque them to 25 foot-pounds and then a 55-degree additional stretch. So that's where we're at. So I'm going to do 25 foot-pounds first.
Action.
All right, slight correction. That was foot-pounds on the instructions, so I had it set to Newton meters. 25 foot-pounds to Newton meters is about 34 Newton meters. So that's what I set it up here. It's 33.9. That wasn't fun because it wants to tip, and I'm only one person. If I had Yogi Mama over here putting her super strength down on that, it would have been a lot quicker. All right, now that I've got the connecting rods for 4, 5, and 6 in, now I need to get the oil baffle with the new gaskets, IMS. Here are the hex head bolts that will go in there, and some thread locker, because these do come micro encapsulated from the manufacturer, and in fact you can still see some of the Loctite here. Try to scrape it off, but I don't think it's really all that necessary. But nevertheless, this is where this goes. Now this baffle's interesting because it has a couple of dowel holes, so you can put it in backwards, but it'll be kind of wonky, so you should notice it. But the little cross-shaped dowel holes will line up right here, and it sits right there. So let's do it. I suspect that some of you probably saw that I made a mistake at the end of that last little segment. Jake, if you're watching, I apologize. I did go back and review the video and the book. The timing chains need to go on first before you do the IMS drive shaft drive chain, which I didn't do, but now I took it all off, no big deal, and I'm doing it now. So Let's do this properly. And one of the things that he specifies in his video that we need to have proper alignment of these chains on this drive chain here, on the drive sprocket. There, right there. Not as much of an issue with the later model 996s, but this particular one, this particular one won't be affected, but it's always best to make sure that the chain fits perfectly in there. And yeah, so we're good. The chains are just gonna sit here. We'll worry about alignment once it's in the crankcase. There's a couple more things I need to do. We gotta put the guide rails in so that it'll hold this thing tighter. Oh, but before we do any of that, let me show you what the table looks like now. I've got the rails. I went ahead and bought 2 new rails for these. These are for the timing chains. I won't be doing that in this video. But when I was inspecting them, I did notice too much slop. And I don't know if they're supposed to do that. But honestly, at this point, another $130 for 2. It's got to be done. But there's something else that I wanted to show you on this table. Maybe you can see it. It's red, white, and blue. And they're about the same size as spark plugs, but these are not spark plugs. For those of you who know what this is, you know that at this point in time, in 2022, this is a unicorn. Guess what? I bought these in September of 2021, and I completely forgot that I did. And I went ahead and bought the LN Engineering aftermarket white labeled ones, and I don't need them. And they're more expensive than these. When I bought these, this whole set, oh, by the way, if you don't know what these are fuel injectors. The Bosch fuel injectors, a lot of them are still sealed. I mean, look, I haven't even broken the seal on these. Here's one that's broken. Let me open it up and show you. Here it is. This is a unicorn, folks. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you're a Porsche lover, go online and do a search for a Bosch fuel injector for a 996 or for any model. I think right now the Bosch is just short. These, I got the whole set for $247. So you do the math. But that was in September of 2021. And now I have 6 of them ready to go. So LN Engineering, I apologize. I won't be needing those generic ones. Not saying they're not good, but if I can get a set of Bosch at darn near pre-pandemic pricing, I gotta do it. So that's cool. And I also got a new oil cooler. Why not, huh? I got some new things coming. But anyway, I got some new rails. I just don't, oh, that's awesome. Some of you might be thinking, Yogi, shouldn't you sell those? I could sell those for about $600 or $700. But I want to use Bosch. Bosch are the OEMs, and it's basically, I'm still saving a ton of money, because if I would have had to buy those, like I said, they're, first of all, you can't. But if you could get your hands on them, they're very expensive right now, and that's not going to change for a while. So, lucky me. All right, this is the final step before we move on to the next stage of assembly. This is the IMS chain guide, and this is the IMS tensioner that fits on to that particular bar right there. And these bolts right here came with this. They didn't come with this, they came with the car. And these bolts right here are M6s, and they're not micro encapsulated, so we're just going to drive them in and torque them down to 10 Newton meters. That's the size. This is an M6. It's pretty obvious. And you're going to need some snap ring pliers for this as well. The washer will go on first, and then the snap ring will fit right on that little groove. Now, as far as the guide itself, you'll see that this side has metal backings that are painted blue. According to Jake, this is the thrust side of the guide. So this goes up against the bearing housing like that on the other side. So I'm going to set you up. We're going to knock this out. Okay, we're going to start here with the chain guide itself. And again, you want to make sure that you've got proper bite with your chain because you can't change it at this point. Get it? Change it. So you want to pinch it like that and then get it into place and then run your bolts in. These are 10 millimeters, like I said. And I just want to get them started. There. Okay. Hey Yogi, did you torque those bolts? Sure did. See? Okay, let's do the tensioner paddle. All right, washer goes in first. And then the snap ring. And you absolutely want to keep your finger somewhere in front of that snap ring so that it doesn't go flying out, never to be seen again. And I would hate that because I only have one of these. All right. And just enough tension to get it up and over. You see how it just kind of slipped off? It feels real loose. There. Now it's not moving. I know you may have not heard that noise, but yeah, I used Yogi Vice Grip to get that tire. And now it's exactly the way I want it to be. No play whatsoever in that. Okay. That's it. Without killing myself.
Yogi, have things gotten that bad?
No, just, yeah, you caught me. Things have gotten bad for Yogi's Garage. I'm siphoning the gas out of Pepper here so I can fuel Gunther because all the money we're spending on this car, it's just killing us. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, I needed to drain the gas out of this car because it's one of the many rules and requirements when doing an engine rebuild, especially from LN Engineering. They've been very adamant, and their instructions on how to break this engine in are very clear. Pretty much new everything. Just go out and buy a new car and then you can put an engine in it. But in this case, I need new fuel, new air, new mass airflow sensor, new air oil separator, yada, yada, yada. So I need to dump all the gas out of here, and it's probably a good thing that I do that anyway. You don't want to start any car that's been sitting for over a year with that old gas in it. So yeah, things haven't gotten that bad, Yogi Mama, but I really appreciate you calling me out over here siphoning gas from my car.
It smells like turpentine or something.
Well, that's the thing, right? Yeah. You don't want to have gas that's old. I put fuel conditioner in here, but you know, it only, fuel stabilizer is what they call it, but it only lasts for so long. So it's better to do it this way than to risk firing up a car with turpentine in it, huh?
Yeah, so what happens to this gas?
I told you I'm putting it in Gunther.
Wait.
It's good enough gas to run in an old tank engine like that, yes.
Especially one that's had nuts and bolts in it. If it can handle that.
Well, the engine that had nuts and bolts in it is dead and broken apart on the floor over there. That's a different engine that has never had nuts and bolts in it.
So it can do it just fine. It can handle it.
Yeah. So the problem is that I don't even know how many gallons. This could be a full tank of gas for all I know. I think this thing holds 15 or 17 gallons.
And so you're going to siphon what?
3 gallons at a time.
3 gallons at a time.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to leave you to it then.
Okay. I'll get back to building that engine just as soon as I drain some of this gas out of here.
All right.
Yeah, you know, I would say about 13 gallons came out of this car. I think this Porsche holds either 15 or 17 gallons. So I got all of it out. I mean, I got it all the way to the bubbles. So I think I got most of it out. When I put more gas in it, when I start this car up for the first time, I'm gonna put in as high an octane as I can get. LN Engineering has a pretty strict list of things that need to be handled before you start this engine up. And during the assembly process, of course, there's a bunch of things that you need to replace. Some sensors, mass airflow sensors, fuel injectors, and we talked about that earlier in my video where I discovered that I had Bosch fuel injectors, so that's awesome. AOS, air oil separator, you're gonna need one of those. Vent tube, I got one of those ordered. I also have a new little U tube as well. It's ridiculous. Those things from any of the part suppliers like FCP or ECS, they want like $25 for a little U-shaped hose. And I'll put a picture up right here so you can see what I'm talking about. Luckily, there's companies like Rock Auto out there that have the same brands, Molly, any of the other brands out there that we're used to seeing with Porsche. They're available through them, and they're a lot cheaper. So just keep that in mind. Knock sensor as well. Oil fill tube, dipstick tube, oil, fuel, and coolant fill caps. I got a new fuel cap. I'm ordering a new coolant cap, but I'm still kind of like, huh? I don't know what the reason is, but again, you don't want to mess around. It also talks about if your car did suffer from bore scoring or any type of intermix, you need to replace those sensors as well. Luckily, I did not have that issue. Mine is mainly just I'm stupid and I want to rebuild the engine. Okay, so I've got to clean the crankcase. I got to get it out on the stand, scrub it with soap and water, and then hit it with some carb cleaner. But take a look at what the next step is going to entail here. Don't you love new parts? Yeah, I know a lot of you engine builders out there are probably watching this video like salivating, because if you go and look at K1, their website, and JE Pistons, man, they're back ordered for months. I'm not saying I didn't wait months. I waited my turn and they finally came up. And again, for my new viewers out there, welcome. I am not being sponsored by anyone. This is all paid for with my hard-earned money. My goal is to try to get this engine built following the Raby M96 Engine Assembly guide. And if you guys are thinking about doing something like this, after I'm done with this video, you shouldn't have any reason why you shouldn't. This guy knows his stuff, and we were fortunate enough to have him put it down on paper as well as on video. So there's no guesswork involved here when you're talking about, I don't know, I think I'm up to $15,000, maybe $10,000. No, okay, I'm not gonna lie. About $15,000 in things that I've added to this car in the engine. And some of you guys may be saying, what a dummy. But you don't know Porsche then, apparently, because these engines, especially when they're rebuilt by LN or bored out, and I'm rebuilding it following this type of assembly guide, it's going to retain its value. In fact, it's going to go up in price. So I got a few more things that I'm waiting for too. Like I said, I'm going with a different IMS. So I'm kind of in a holding pattern here because Jake has recommended that I wait and pull the IMS while it's out of the engine crankcase because it's easier. I'm not so sure because you got to have some leverage here to hold it in place. I may ping him to get some more advice on that. And I apologize about it being a little bit dark in here. I don't have my detail lights on in here. I like to save a little money when I can on electricity, even though I'm on solar. But anyway, yeah, there she is, man. She is, I'm aiming for Christmas. But you know what? I'm not gonna hit that goal if I keep on jib-jabbing. Let's get back to work. You are too sexy.
You're gonna get a bath.
We don't talk about Bruno. No, 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 we don't talk about
We
Bruno.
don't talk about purple power.
We don't talk about purple power. Yogi scratched up his nickel liners. Oh, that's perfect. Look at that.
Hopefully it was supposed to.
No, I meant like something dirty. We are ready to move on to cleaning the bores themselves, and then we'll move back to getting the pistons connected to the connecting rods for the other bank. But I wanted to change gears a little bit and show you what it's going to take to do that. Okay, so there's a couple of things that you're going to need for this cleaning process. One of which is obviously your Chem wipes. You want to use these kind because they're lint and dust free. And the other thing you're going to need is carb and choke cleaner. And I said this earlier in my other video, the brake cleaner is just not strong enough. It's very important that you do a carb and choke. Take it from me. It interfered with my micrometer measurements when I was miking the crankshaft when I used brake cleaner. But when I switched to the carb cleaner and cleaned off the crankshaft and the bearings, perfect measurements every time. So take it from me and take it from Jake. This is what you need to use along with your Chem wipes. You saw that I used AP cleaner just to do an overall clean of the engine crankcase, but I didn't really do the bores all that much. And take a look at that, okay? So this is actual diamond dust, and that's what they use to bore this out, and it's still all over the cylinder wall, so you need to get it really clean, and it should, again, be clean when you take it out. So let's keep going. Be careful along the edges. It's sharp and you will cut your fingers wide open. Sharp right here. Just keep cleaning it. One more fold over should do it. There we go. Clean. All right, I'm gonna do the other two cylinders here, and then we'll go back to putting the connecting rods on the pistons. All right, so we are back here, and what we gotta do is we gotta insert these wire rings. They're called wire locks, and you notice they don't have a little tab on them. So they're different from the OEM wire locks that have a little tab there. But luckily for me, the JE pistons already came pre-made like that, so good for me. For the folks out there that have assembled a Porsche engine before, Finn at Man in the Garage, I'm talking to you. This is a Porsche special tool that's part of an entire package deal, and I got this on eBay, and it's important that you get the right kind. Let me show you what else is included in this. This here is the total package that you get. It comes in this plastic form mold case. It has a couple of things that you'll definitely use throughout the life of this toolkit, and that's some of these over here. This is to lock in your camshafts. Some of these other tools are for the 5-chain, which I may not use, and then this is to lock your engine into top dead center or into different positions, which you will use when you do the other 3 cylinders. And this tool here, I believe, is part of that process. So get yourself this kit. I think I paid a couple $100 for it. Do not skimp. There's one thing that you need to look at when you're shopping for this kit, and it's this. What you're looking for here is at the top, right? Let me stand this thing up. I'm gonna try to do this all without dropping it, and back up a little bit here. All right, so this has a tapered end, and it also has a little tooth there. So when you're looking at it, make sure it has this ability, because this is gonna make your life really easy. Look, just like I said about the cylinder walls, they need to be clean coming out like they were going in. Alakazoo! You'll notice that it didn't end on the landing here. It's very important. You got to get it into the slot or the groove there. And that's what happens when you do it properly. Okay, so now let's marry this together. So let me line this up, get it ready. You want to lube up your wrist pin, obviously. I'm using assembly grease again. This is assembly oil, all right? And then come in here, and again, this is clean. You just want to lube up the insides here to make sure it's not going to get held up by anything. Okay, what I'll do is I'll get started here. It's important that the temperature that you're working in is about 72 to 75 degrees, because you may not know this, but metal expands and contracts. And then there, okay? So now that's in place. We're gonna do the same technique that I did earlier. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm actually glad that this happened. Check it out. That is wrong. That landed on the landing. Landed on the landing. Watch this. If I was to just reach in there and grab that, look how easy that comes out. You would be talking about a major, major engine failure if you didn't catch that. So we're going to do this again. Making sure that it's fully seated on there. It's not taped, tipping to one side or anything. There. Now take a look at that. Try to keep it right in the square, that focal square right there. Yep. See, now it's past the landing. You can see, I'll use this little pointer. This is the landing, and now it's in the groove, right? So this wrist pin is not going anywhere. All right, cool. All right, so I'm gonna tackle this last one, and I'll get back to you here in a second. That's better. Perfection. One last time. And by the way, I went back and looked at the second crown or the second wrist pin that I did, and it was slightly popped out. So I used my mechanics pick, and it made an audible clicking sound when it was completely landed in there. I don't know if you'd seen that in the video, but this looks great. This is in. Make sure. All right, cool. All right, it's time to get the crankshaft carrier into the half of the engine crankcase, okay? So there's a couple of things we gotta do first. We've got everything set up here. I've got a couple of bolts to help me get it in, and then Yogi Mama's gonna help me on one side, and we're gonna drop it straight in to here. This chain goes down in here, and then this chain will overlap. But before we do any of that, it's important that we get a couple of gaskets in. So we're ready to start putting gaskets in, meaning that it's starting to come together and starting to look like a real engine. All right, so I bought a kit from LN Engineering that has a bunch of stuff in it that's part of a rebuild. Gaskets, bolts, O-rings, metal gaskets, exhausts, whatever. And then this came with it here. So back on this thing, we got to put these in. And based on what Jake recommends in the assembly guide is you put them in now, and then you tape them down so that they don't fall out and you don't forget it. And the reason why this is so important is because these gaskets keep coolant from entering the oil sump. So they're really important. If you don't put them in at this stage and you forget, the moment you put coolant in your engine, it's going to intermix. It's going to intermix with your, I'm just going to do it like this. It's going to intermix with your oil. All right. Here. You don't want any of the tape hanging off on the inside because you won't be able to get to it. Now I'm going to do a couple more tape areas here for the chain to keep the chain from scraping the surface here. Okay, maybe another one right there. Not going to hurt anything for now. Okay, so back to this. I'm going to take it from this side. Yogi Mama's going to take it from this side. We're going to lift it straight up. I'm going to have to lift my end a little bit higher because, like I said, I got to drop this timing chain through here, and then this timing chain will just kind of flap over on this side. So we're ready to go. We're going to get set up, and then we're going to lift and drop it right in. All right, let's do it. Oh, and one more thing. There are dowels that are going to help you line this up. You need to make sure these are all the way fully seated. And one of the things Jake does in his video is he uses a vernier caliper to measure the depth of the hole on the carrier. You can't see the dowels because I've already flipped it over. And then you compare it to the depth of what's sticking out from here. I just put this dowel in, and the other dowel ended up staying in the carrier. So I'm hoping it's not going to interfere, but I did ensure that they're both fully seated. And we're going to know that the moment I get it in there because it'll be all cockeyed if it's not. So here we go. And if you mess this up, you got to pull it out and restart. And this is where that gasket sits here. So we got to make sure that it doesn't come off and flap or whatever and get pinched. We got to make sure that does not happen. So let's do it. Okay, ready? Mm-hmm. Okay, a little bit higher on my side to get the chain in. All right. There we go. Okay? Uh-huh. All right. I think it's on there. See how it's not on there? Take a look at this seam. That looks straight to you. Looks like a little high on that side. There, that's better. Much better. Much better. Look at that line now. Yeah? Okay. Oh, shit.
Did it come off?
It doesn't. Looks okay. It's the rest of the gasket's down there. Okay. Very nice. I used oil leader. That's what that is. It's safe. Trust me. All right, we are ready to bolt the carrier inside of the crankcase half. Right now, if you tried to flip this thing over, it would fall out. There's nothing holding it in right now but gravity. So there's a couple of bolts that come from the disassembly, and then there's a couple of cylinder head bolts that you're gonna need to use to get this together. So check it out. So let's start with the cylinder head bolts. Yeah, these are the really long cylinder head bolts, and they actually go through the crankcase and attach to the carrier bearing housing, right? So that actually bolts to it. That's what holds it in place. And then there are two OEM bolts that go in. You need to replace the O-ring. I did that. This is the original O-ring that came off of it. It's kind of firm and flat. So it's a good thing I took that out. And the ones that came in the FCP Euro kit were green. These are the only ones that match. So they're the same. And you saw in the little montage video that I'm using an ultrasonic cleaner to get these clean. And you saw how clean they are. I mean, these are practically new, right? Okay, and then of course you're gonna need a T50 Torx and then a torque wrench set to about 22 Newton meters. That's what these require here. Now you're probably wondering what these two are here. Yeah, so Porsche sells a special tool with a designation of 9613. And basically it's a spacer that's used here on the cylinder head to simulate the height of a cylinder head so that I can bolt it in from the bottom and then flip this thing over to put the cylinders. So I can flip this thing over and put the pistons in. So this acts as that. Now, these aren't quite the length of the 9613, but these should be adequate. The tool is nothing more than PVC, it looks like to me, but it's really thick. So I'm gonna use these instead with some tape to protect the surface of the crankcase so that I don't mar it up or anything. So I'm gonna get you set up. We're gonna bolt that in, and then we can wrap this video up. All right, it's a good idea to lube up the bolts before you put them in. Just a little bit on the threads, and then a little bit at the base. One of them with the O-ring actually attaches to the outside, and the one without the O-ring goes inside of that timing chain passage. All right, so let's do this. I'm gonna start with, yeah, go ahead and get yourself an extension as well. Make it easier for you. All right, let's take a peek. So this one here is the O-ring. We'll go ahead and do that one first. All right, get that started. And then the other one goes inside of here. I'm gonna have to get on my back. It sits right here. Okay, let me get my, didn't need my ratchet. After all, just the torque wrench. Now the cylinder head bolts, you do not need to torque those in, but you may want to consider getting them pretty snug. All right, let me show you what they look like. Okay, so that's the O-ring, that's the non-O-ring one, because you can see it's inside of the timing chain housing here. And then that's the O-ring one right there. So that holds this half of the carrier, and you can see the carrier right there. And then I'm gonna use 2 cylinder head bolts right there with those spacers to hold this side in. Let's do it. Okay, change of plans. Unfortunately, these wrist pins are about, I don't know, 10 millimeters too short. And I don't have a stack of washers that can take that out. So I'm just gonna knock this out. Take it out and use the PVC pipe. Get it snug and it'll hold it. In case you're wondering, that crankcase carrier is 75 pounds approximately. So this shouldn't be a big deal. See, it even says 9613 on it, so it must be legit. Just try to keep them straight right there. And then again, you want them snug. Okay? But you don't want them, you know, compressed. That's good. Now I can flip this thing over. All right, I think this is a good place to stop. We've accomplished a whole lot. We got bank 1's pistons and connecting rods together. We've got the connecting rods for bank 2 already attached on the carrier. We've got the carrier inside of the crankcase half. I've got it flipped over, ready to put pistons in the next video. So we've got a lot to do, but we're making really good progress. And we're also gonna be taking care of the IMS bearing. I've got a special surprise for you guys on that one. I've got a pretty cool option that I'm going to be installing here, and I'm going to show you the whole process. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And also, I've got another video coming up very soon, behind the scenes of Yogi's Garage. All the tools that I've worked with, things that I can recommend, things that I can definitely tell you not to buy. I'll show you my toolbox, and I'll also probably throw up some pretty good discount codes for you guys as well, because as my intro said, I'm past 1,000. Thank you guys for that. If this is your first time, please subscribe. I got a lot of projects coming up in the future. It's not just gonna be Porsche. I work on Audi, I work on Mercedes, now I work on Porsche, and I've got other projects that I'm thinking about, maybe even an AMG, I don't know, but I need your help, okay? So keep watching, keep subscribing, and we'll see you next time on Yogi's Garage.
Yo, microphone check, make it a microphone check. Give it a microphone, I make the microphone dead. Don't step to me, newbie, I could truly be moody. I could have played the fucking Grinch in the movies. I've been a part-time shadow cat, part-time. That is not a guy that I would ever want to try to battle rap. Snap, crackle, pop,